Hey, how you doing, everybody? Mike Barra, Seahawk Boy Mike Barra here, once again to give you a quick video update. We have breaking news. The New York Giants, the New York Football Giants, have released quarterback Daniel Jones. They signed him a couple years ago to a 6-year, $160 million contract. Everybody thought it was crazy money. Turned out it wasn't really all that bad. And However, things have gone south. He had a great year, one season. They signed him to the big deal. And now it looks like the bloom is off the rose and they have released Daniel Jones. Now, you may remember Daniel Jones is a quarterback who tore the Seahawks defense apart in week 5 this season. The question now becomes, are the Seattle Seahawks in any way, shape, or form interested in Daniel Jones? Probably not, but they should be. Hey, everybody, welcome back. Seahawk Boy Mike Barra here with you. I should actually change my name to Seahawk Boy Mike B. But we're here to talk about New York Giants quarterback Daniel Jones. He got released today by the Giants. He was benched this past week. Everybody said, well, he's just not playing that good, and they decided to bench him. And he went to the owner today and asked for his release. The Giants granted it. They are going to release him later today. The news was broken just an hour or so ago by guys like Adam Schefter and the usual crowd of NFL beat reporters and ESPN reporters. Big week in New York football. The Jets fired general manager Joe Douglas, who did, I thought, a pretty decent job of putting a roster together. The Giants benched Daniel Jones, and then he asked for his release. There's some details that go into this. The Giants are going to take on $20 million in dead money by releasing him, but it depends on whether they release him as a January 1st or a June 1st or a pre-June 1st cut. It just really depends on how much the cap hit is going to be for the Giants. We can look at that later if you really want to, but the bottom line is he is gone. Now, what has to happen at this point is that he will now have to clear waivers. He goes on waivers. Any team that picks him up has to pick up the remainder of the $13 million guarantee on his contract. The reality is nobody's going to do that. Now, the cool thing about this particular deal is that if a team does pick him up, they could literally sign him for the veteran minimum. The Giants will then continue to pay him the $13.3 million in guarantees that are left on his deal, and it will not count against the new team's salary cap. So they can just sign him for almost nothing, bring him in, give him a shot. A lot of people are saying, wouldn't it be hilarious if the Dallas Cowboys claimed him and then started him on Thursday on Thanksgiving against the New York Football Giants? That would really be interesting if the Cowboys did that. I don't know if they're going to do it, but the question then becomes, should anybody else be interested? There's rumors Carolina might be interested. There's rumors that, again, Dallas might be interested. They need a quarterback right now. But just to remind everybody, I want to flip over and I want to remind you of just how well he played against the Seahawks in Week 5. We're just going to run these highlights kind of in the background here and let everybody see what he did to us, because he really, really did torture us. He threw the ball very well. He didn't put up big, huge numbers, but he put up pretty much better numbers than Geno Smith. He had a 109 quarterback rating than that. And, as you watch him throw the ball, he seemed like he was in command of the offense. He moved the ball around. He got good run after the catch. Now, there are people who hate Daniel Jones. They think he's a terrible quarterback, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But the fact is he has played great sometimes. Now, you can make the same argument about Geno Smith. Geno occasionally plays great. He occasionally throws the ball great, especially against bad teams. And in Week 5, the Seahawks were a bad team. I don't think there's any question about the fact the Seahawks were a bad team in week 5, but they're a little bit better now. And one of the things the Seahawks have that Daniel Jones never had with the Giants is they have some great receivers. Okay. The only good receiver he's really got is Malik Neighbors, who's been out part of the year. I don't even think he played against the Seahawks. And again, as you watch Jones, what you see is that he delivers the ball on target when he has time. He gets the ball to the guy that needs to get it. Let's see. We flip this over here. Do that. He gets the ball to the guy that needs it and did a very efficient job against the Seahawks. Now, we already got a guy like that, right? We got Geno. We have a guy who throws the ball pretty well, but he also, as you can see here, takes a lot of sacks. Daniel Jones took a lot of sacks. Why? Because they had a revolving door offensive line. They didn't have a very good offensive line. Well, neither did the Seahawks, people will say. That's true. But look, here's the difference in all this. There's a couple of major differences. Geno Smith is 34. 34. It's a 3 and a 4. 34 years old. Daniel Jones is only 27. So he's still a young player. He's only been in the league like 6 years. And with a good coaching staff, let's say, assuming we have one, with an efficient offensive coordinator. Look at this throw. This is a great throw downfield. He can make all the throws you need him to make. Let's put him in a good situation. And guess what he can do? He can do all the things that Geno does in terms of distributing the ball to Jackson Smith-Njigba, DK Metcalf, maybe a tight end, AJ Barner, if we ever get a tight end. That was a beautiful throw for a touchdown. And Tyler Lockett. Now, this is kind of interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch Seahawks Twitter and see how they react to this. Because a lot of them, I can already see Seahawks retard Nelson going, oh, he's terrible, don't go, no. Geno's better. Geno's not better. He's just as good as Geno. He makes plays with his legs. Geno made plays with his legs too. Look at the touchdown he scored last week to win the game against San Francisco. Good for you, Geno. But Daniel Jones can do all this. And he's 27, not 34. And he's bigger and physically stronger and more imposing than Geno Smith. So when he runs the ball, he can run the ball with more authority. So I'm trying to imagine, how would Geno Smith do? How would Daniel Jones do in the Seahawks offense? And if you look at Geno's passing charts, basically he makes a lot of 8 and 9 yard throws that DK and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith-Njigba turn into 17, 18 yard gains. That's how Geno acquires so much yardage. Daniel Jones can do any of the stuff that Geno Smith can do. Smith Jones. They're interchangeable, but Daniel Jones is a lot younger. So if you're one of these people, one of these Seahawks fans who argues that, oh, the way to build a team is to, draft for all the position players, build in the trenches, and then go get a quarterback. Well, Daniel Jones is the epitome of that quarterback. He is the epitome of that quarterback. Now, here's something the Seahawks, let's say they were interested. Here's something they could do. They could pick up his contract. They could pick him up on waivers. They could say, by the way, here's the blocked field goal that won the game for the Giants. They could say, we're going to pick up your deal, but we want you to restructure it so your cap number's lower and save some money, but we'll guarantee a little bit of it. Bring you in here for a couple years. Then next year, you go into the offseason with Daniel Jones and Sam Howell as your quarterbacks, and you release 34-year-old Geno Smith. Geno Smith sleeps with the fishes. That's how it would work. So it could be done. More likely he hits free agency, because this is just not the kind of move that this is not the kind of move that John Schneider ever makes. He just doesn't do these kinds of things. But it is probably something that should be seriously considered. Now, let's slide over and look at the salary cap. Right now, the Seahawks actually do have a surprising amount of space under the cap. They have almost $9 million under the cap. So they would have to do a fairly immediate shift in the cap. They would have to move some money around, maybe release somebody. They could cut Jaron Reed and clear up some space. They could do a lot of things this year if they had to, or they could get him to adjust his deal so that he can be fit under the cap for this season. So they could claim him on waivers if they wanted to. Now, I'm going to argue that this would be a smart move because basically he's Geno, but much younger than Geno. So if you believe Geno is the answer in Seattle, then there's no reason you shouldn't believe Daniel Jones isn't the answer because he's got the same physical traits and capabilities. The difference is he still has upside. You go get him a better tight end next year. See what he can do. You got Ken Walker. See what he can do. You can then make an argument for keeping DK. There's so many of you guys out there that don't want to trade or cut DK. You want to keep him. Okay, now you got an excuse to keep him because you've got a legitimate NFL quarterback who I think has made a Pro Bowl and can throw the ball downfield very, very effectively. And he's 27 years old. Might be 28, but I think he's 27. Younger than Geno. A guy that still has some future upside in a better situation. And then the thing that does on top of that is it means the Seahawks do not have to go out and get a quarterback in the first round of the draft. They can wait and see if somebody they like that has some good traits falls to them in the second, third, or fourth round to bring in behind Daniel Jones. Why? Because you've now finally done the thing that Seahawk Boy Mike has asked you to do repeatedly, which is get a younger quarterback with some upside in behind Geno Smith. That would be great. All right, let's take a look at the cap situation because this would change what they would do in the offseason. If you look at 2025, in this case, you might not really, you're going to be $5 million over the cap. It'd probably be a little bit worse than that if you bring in Daniel Jones. But guess what? You can cut Geno. Boom, $25 million under the cap is gone. And you're now $20 million under the cap. You can still release a lot of the guys that I don't think are cutting it, that really aren't playing all that great. Uchenna Nwosu, Noah Fant. Where's the other Fant? George Fant can go. Rayshon Jenkins can go. He's 31. He's getting paid good money. Wow. All of a sudden, we've got $47 million. You can even make some tougher cuts. You can say to Tyler Lockett, look, your cap number's got to come down to $5 million, and you can stay for another year. If not, boom, you can cut him. And now you have $63 million to spend. Draymond Jones, goodbye. Leonard Williams, goodbye. But you can keep DK and still have, look at this number, $87 million. And you can use that cap space to get a couple of offensive linemen, maybe a linebacker, maybe a safety. Maybe you can find a number 3 wide receiver to replace Tyler Lockett. Maybe an experienced tight end that can actually catch the ball. And then you still got your whole draft. First rounder, second rounder, third rounder, fifth rounder, sixth, fourth. I think they have a fourth and not a fifth. Sixth and seventh. Would I make this move if I was the Seahawks GM? Yeah. And like I said, I might consider claiming him off waivers after I talked to his agent and said, look, can we restructure his deal so we can keep him under the cap this year and have him for next year, like an option year for next year? They would probably do that deal. Now, would it create problems in Seattle? Would it create problems for this season for Geno? Yeah, it probably would. It probably would, because Geno would then know he was on the outs. But Geno would also be playing for his next contract with whatever team he's going to go to. So he's going to be playing his best anyway. It's not like Geno's going to slack off. There's no reason, if you're still in contention, to even play Daniel Jones this year. No reason whatsoever. You can stay with everything exactly the same. So those of you who believe in Geno now have an opportunity to have Geno prove it. Now, I don't know what the ramifications would be if you restructured Daniel Jones' deal, if you redid his deal. Probably arrange it so that you wouldn't take a big cap hit if you cut him next year. But you could play them off against each other the rest of the year. See which one you like better going forward as your bridge quarterback, and then draft a young guy that could take 2 or 3 or 4 years. Take his time to develop. Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts. Imagine picking up a guy like that in the second round. Maybe the Alabama quarterback slides down there. Think about it. You suddenly have solved your biggest problem and have freed up the resources to fix your second biggest problem, which is the offensive line. I think it's a great idea. I think it has a lot of appeal. I hope the Seahawks do it, but knowing clown John Schneider, I don't believe he's going to. I don't think he will. But to answer my own question, should the Seahawks be interested in Daniel Jones? Absolutely. And I can even make a case they should just claim him on waivers and not wait for him to clear waivers and pick him up in free agency. That's it. That's what I got. That's what I think. I'm sure every retard on Seahawks Twitter is going to disagree with me, except maybe Rob Staten, who's actually pretty smart. You're smart, Rob. All right, go Hawks. And remember, this weekend, we're going to find out this weekend whether the Seahawks are serious or not. Their 2 biggest wins this season, their 2 best games have come after the mini bye on a Thursday night game and the full bye against the 49ers and the Falcons. Both on the road. Now they're at home where they've lost 4 in a row. They've looked terrible. The pressure is on Geno at home, and they're playing the division-leading Cardinals at 6-4. This weekend, we're going to find out if the Seahawks are contenders or pretenders. They're playing a lot better since they got Ernest Jones in at linebacker against the run. They're playing better. Now, you can argue, well, why do I want to blow that up by getting rid of Draymond Jones and Leonard Williams and all those guys? Because they're over 30 and they're overpaid. And I want to take that money and spend it on the offensive line and draft for the defensive line, especially if we're going to keep John Schneider as GM. Why? Because John Schneider sucks at drafting offensive linemen. The best offensive lineman he's probably ever drafted is what? Jermaine Ifedi? Well, I mean, of course, Charles Cross is okay. He's not very good. Their first season here, they drafted the left tackle, Russell Okung. But that was a no-brainer. It was either going to be Okung or Trent Williams, whoever fell to them. Okung fell. They drafted him. He was a good player. He was not great. He was a Pro Bowl player. That's where we're at. That's the situation. Let's see what they do about this. My guess is nothing, but my hope is that John will get some brains, or there will be some pressure on him from ownership who may want to blow things up. And John may go, I want to claim this guy and see if we can negotiate him under our cap and sit him for the rest of the year and then move on to him from Geno. That would be a good strategy. It would be one that I could get excited about. And that is not meant to trash Geno, who is okay. But Daniel Jones is just as okay, has the ability to be better than the current level of Geno okay, and would give us a future at the position. And the luxury of finding a young guy to develop over the next 2, 3, 4 years behind him. All right. Thanks for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you, as few of you as there are. But just because you're not here doesn't mean I'm not right. Seahawks Twitter. Keep that in mind. See ya.